This is a book review of the epic collection, The Avengers. Now, this is heavy metal. It's by Simonson, Machado, and Buscema, and obviously many others as well. This is volume 18, covers the period 87 to 89, and it covers the books Avengers 286 to 303, Annual 17. I'll just read quickly back. You've got a monstrous mutation of Marrina, obviously the submariner's wife. You've also got Dr. Druid, of course, who was Dr. Druid back in the day, really early years. You've also got Kang. You've also got the X-Men's Inferno story. And also you've got, to go to the back, you've got a change in obviously She-Hulk, Black Knight, etc., Thor. But then you've suddenly got the end. You've got Reed Richards, Sue Storm, Gilgamesh, and Thor and Captain America in a completely different costume. Now, just going to run through this. It's quite a chunky one. This came out in 2020. It's from published in Canada. Really nice quality. And of course, you've got a long list of all the epics. Quite impressive list now. Quite often when I go through these, I think, oh, many of them, of course, some of them are out of print now. So if you want them, better rush and get them. Got the list of all the people there involved and into the first story. And of course, got the contents there as well. You've got the Avengers. Now that one is issue obviously 286, and you've got the Mad Thinker's android. I wish they'd give him a better name. I mean, and even sometimes they turn around and say Faceless One. I'm thinking, well, he has got a bit of a face. Obviously got the Hulk and Captain Marvel. They're all obviously quite a powerful team at this point. There's quite a lot. However, they're a bit of a disorganised because Captain Marvel's not proven to be particularly brilliant in controlling, especially old Dr. Druid, who obviously wants, he's got a power kick. And you've got the story with, but you've also got, into this first one, you've got the Fixer. Now, there's a bit of twist there. Not going to say anything more about, I think, the Fixer. And of course, you've got the initial character who obviously is, Mentalo. Now, these are, of course, when he was part of the Shield storyline. I really love those ones. However, you've got the Mad Thinker's android, and it's a great story. And that goes into the storyline, obviously, heavy metal. There's a number of other robots. There's quite a few, obviously, robots in the Marvel Universe. Some of the obvious ones I will just show, obviously, briefly. So you've got the Mad Thinker's android there, obviously, having a problem. But, of course, that isn't the end of the storyline. I mean, it would be really bad having it called heavy metal if that was it, because the group is called heavy metal. Though, to be fair, I don't really think the android is particularly metal. I'm surprised they didn't bring in the old leaders one. Well, the leader had stacks of androids, and maybe obviously it may be a Doctor Doom android or something. They would have put the whole team in. That's always a possible. Now, I love this with the Black Knight. Black Knight has got this curse on it, which I must admit is a bit of a problem curse, because basically if he scratches anyone or cuts anyone, he gets, which he doesn't know what's going to happen, but he knows it's a curse. That could have been just, he has to read Marvel comics for the rest of his life. That would be a reasonable curse. Yeah, unless you're a DC Comics fan, I guess. But anyway, you could be both, of course. And you've got the, which I am, you got this Submariner, great story, of course. I love Submariner, and of course there's a bit of problem with his wife later in the story. As it said in the thing, it says torment for monstrous mutation of Marrina. I must admit, I didn't even know he was married to Marrina, I have to say. Marrina was a great character in Alpha Flight. I loved those stories. Anyway, you've got heavy metal, and you of course got some other various robots involved in them. Again, you can guess which robots are involved in the story. Some I didn't know about. There's one called Test One. I'm surprised they didn't go along and find out Ultron. Now, I suspect Ultron would have loved to have been the leader of the group. But anyway, Dr. Druid's got a few problems. He's causing issues all the way through this. And, well, anyway, there's a twist. I'm not going to say this story because that would be terrible. But it's a really epic story featuring one of my favourite Captain America villains from back in the day, and I loved that storyline. So that's great. And then you've got again Dr. Druid, very weird, and I love this bit. Let's Party. You've got the cover there. I love this about the epic collections. They put the covers. Only criticism I have of these is they never put the letters pages, but I don't know if they had letters pages by this time because it's obviously in the 80s. not every issue had letters pages, I suppose, just assuming they were, because obviously in the 60s and 70s they did. John Buscema, of course, brilliant artist. I love his work. And you got, he's obviously, Dr. Druid is building up his power. Well, he was a pretty powerful guy even in the early days, when in the early stories in the early 60s. So you've got Marrina there. I love the initial start point where part of this story, the mutation story, and you've got, and I love the characters. It's nice seeing the characters out of costume. You know, you've obviously, they're going to still stand out, aren't they? At the end of the day, you've got the She-Hulk walking through, you've got Submariner. You know, they're not going to be your average person walking in the crowd. So that's a real good, I love the bit where she goes for the fish there. So that's a great story. I love that all the way through. Quite powerful. And I think the authorities would be quite angry with the Avengers. You know, one of their characters is doing a bit of a problem around the world. However, Kang storyline is, of course, brilliant. I love the Kang storyline. I love the council, all that sort of stuff. It's just quite a bit ridiculous in many ways. But I suppose in many ways, no different from like Flash or something where you've got like thousands of different Flashes. You end up with thousands of different Kangs. And no wonder Kang, this one, that one, so complicated. I suppose Doctor Doom is probably not on the council somewhere as well. There's probably a council of Doctor Dooms, I expect, as well, or a council of Immortuses. I'm certain someone has got that storyline already done. Now, this is quite good with the Black Knight. Black Knight story is really good, but I love the Dr. Druid storyline. Dr. Druid's storyline is absolutely superb, really quite decent. So, love that. And then, actually, this is quite a good story as well with the this robot war kind of thing. They get this big robot pops up in the middle of, obviously, Washington. And, well, that's a decent storyline. Obviously, Thor goes off to battle it and onto the Kang story. A lot of Kang story in this. Really, really good. And then the story sort of splits. So you've got about halfway through the book. You can see there, halfway through the book, you've got the story. And then, weirdly, it goes off on this evolutionary war. And it just sort of didn't really fit right, this bit. This didn't really, I mean, obviously, in terms of chronological, obviously would include it, but it just didn't really sort of, I was thinking, I wasn't particularly enamoured by the story. I've never been a fan of the high evolutionary stories, and it's got a bit of Hercules is in it, Hulk's in it, so it's a very big change to the storyline. Suddenly you've gone from like She-Hulk, all those sort of characters, and then you've got Hercules, and, well, yeah, nothing to write home about that story. No, it's got a few decent bits of imagery, but no, not convinced by that storyline. However, I really loved the next storyline. And this one, Edwin Jarvis, The Last Avenger. Just great. So you've got Edwin, obviously Jarvis, Disaster. I love this bit as well. Always really good. I thought when I first saw this, I thought, oh, we're going to have a black and white done like a sort of like, a Marvel magazine. I would love to see the Avengers in Marvel magazines. Obviously, I think they were done. There was the Hulk one, Rampaging Hulk, where you had the Avengers. Not been many where you've had the Avengers in black and white stories, as far as I know. And I would love to see that. However, this is great because you meet Jarvis's mum. It's just lovely where Jarvis, obviously, this woman bumps into this woman all the way through the story. Just brilliant. Now, I don't know if that story is continued later on. I always hope that is the case, but obviously without reading further on, I have no idea what happened. Also, I like the appearance by Peter Parker in the story. Again, that's not much of a spoiler. His brief cameo where he's passing through. But you got Jarvis battling this on his own, of course. That would be so likely. And then another sort of story, this sort of also was slightly baffling one. Just didn't really, suddenly the storyline jumps a bit into this Orphan Maker story. The Inferno continues. Now, obviously, it's a part of a series that was, I assume, because I don't know, the X-Men story or maybe it was some other story. However, whatever story it was, it just seems a bit out of place, and personally, yeah, it's fine. But it does introduce, of course, the new characters into things, because like halfway through the book, you get a new batch of Avengers. And you've got a great little story. I love the appearance of the good old growing man in the story as well. And you've got this Gilgamesh character, who I must admit, know nothing about. The annual, it's not an annual, it's basically an annual. They got to issue this one. I'm just going to go up. I don't want to show the thing because I don't want to spoil who's in it. This is obviously 300, it's 64-page special, and well, I think it's a real good, decent story. At the end, I wasn't too enamoured by the main story. You got these weird robots, and I was thinking, other than appearances of a few characters, it's not great. However, the best bit about this, and I'm just getting to this bit, is that I can't show that. It's got the lovely sequence of all the people in the Avengers, which is just superb, I think. Just absolutely great, because it lists all the things. So you've got Hawkeye, 16 to 62, etc., 98 to 109, 130 to 135, 137, etc. So it's got all these sorts, all lists. Though I must admit, is that true? And I have to say, I think there's some inaccuracies in this. Maybe I'm wrong. However, Black Widow is listed here, 111 to 112, 239. Black Widow turned up quite regularly in the issues around 30, 35, 40, etc. I mean, there was the Red Guardian story, those sort of things. Black Widow also was the one part of the... there was a whole load of stories with Black Widow. So I find that slightly unusual that they didn't include the Black Widow there. And no, the X-Men didn't appear, so the Beast wouldn't appear earlier than that. But it does, so there's a few things there. Likewise, this, The Swordsman, issue 20. Well, Swordsman appeared, as far as I'm aware, also in 2 issues around that period. I can't remember if it was 19 or 20 or 2021. And also he was in the Swordsman, as far as I was aware, in the annual, issue 1, the one with Mandarin. My memory of that one certainly was. So there's inconsistencies here, incorrect information. So it's not brilliant in terms of that. It says here, I guess it was, maybe they're arguing that they weren't members of the Avengers, but I thought she was a member of Black Widow. Well, who knows? Anyway, I'm obviously not going to, correct them on that, but it just seems odd. I love the list as well of all the people sort of loosely connected with the Avengers, and obviously Edwin Jarvis gets in there as well. And then you've got the Avengers Park, and this is brilliant. This is worth it. Not going to spoil it because it's just, but it's the Loki story. Got this brilliant, brilliant story. Artwork by Walt Simonson, Ralph Macchio, storytellers, it says here, obviously, are just superb. Just absolutely crazy. I love Walt Simonson. So that was just good. Not long enough for my... I wish it would have been most of the book. It would have been brilliant if they'd done it most of the book this way, instead of the other story, which wasn't brilliant. Then you've got these, weirdly, this must be a misprinting. They've actually got the bonus material basically stuck here. Original version of the Avengers 17 annual, etc. The heavy metal, that would seem to be at the back, which is odd because there's no extras in this, which is odd. So it's sort of like, I think they put the extras slightly, I think they should put the bonuses at the back or extras. However, you got this story, Into the Lair of the Brain Leeches. Well, great to see the Fantastic Four, obviously Reed Richards and Sue Storm, one of my favourite characters all time. So it's just great. And this story's a sort of Nova-related storyline. You've got Star Fox in it as well. But it's just great to see Reed Richards and Sue Storm in this. It's a great, wonderful story. And also you've got the West Coast Avengers kick into the story as well. So, wow, good. Brilliant story. However, disappointing, I'd say the extras. Now, this has got one panel here. This is Marvel Portraits of a Universe pin-up. And then you've got some interview with Walt Simonson, which is really quite good. Really nice to have. But that is it. No alternate covers, no, what's the name, no sort of pin-ups or any sort of thing in particular bonus material. However, that would be so unfair because this book is really, really brilliant. Thoroughly enjoyed this one. The Avengers Volume 18, totally. And if I say, you rush out and get this if you can, because if you don't get these sort of epic collections fairly soon, amazingly they do go out of print very quick, and then of course then they go for crazy prices until of course hopefully Marvel bring them out again, and then you have to make certain you actually notice that they've come out. Otherwise they come out and they're gone before you know it, and then suddenly you're thinking. Because we've had that a few times over here in the UK where I've gone and thought, oh, I must get that one. And then it just doesn't seem to turn up over it. It's sort of just available in the States. But UK, I can't seem to find a copy at a reasonable price anyway. Obviously, the price just goes insane again. Oh, well. So Avengers, I love this one. This is a really enjoyable heavy metal Avengers epic collection. Totally recommended. Brilliant book.